We're going to model in our purlins on the roof here and our rails on the vertical elevations. And there's a few little tips and tricks that you need to know to make this work, because the most efficient way to do this is to use beam systems. But the secret of using the beam systems is creating reference planes first. Okay, so that's the first job that we're going to do, is we're going to set up some reference planes. And I'm going into the ground floor plan here, and I'm in the architecture tab, and I'm coming over to reference plane. Now we want this offset about 12 mils, say, from the first point here. And you can see that we've got a flat plate here, and of the column. So I might just come to the edge here and start that. Now you can see that reference, that offset has gone to the inside here. So what I'm going to do is come over to this side, right, and I'll start from here, and you can see now that the reference plane is 12 mil off at that point. So right to left, left to right has a bearing on lots of different things here, particularly when you create your reference planes. All right, now escape. Let's select it again, come over to this side here, and just drag that out. Now we need to name this. I'll name it over here. So this will be south elevation RP reference plane. Okay, and you can see that the name pops up here. Right, that's the first one. I'm going to go up here now, and we're going to do the same again, and it's offset 12. Why do I offset at 12? Because you'll have kind of cleats, fixing brackets that will that the steel manufacturer will put onto the columns to allow you to attach your rails. Basically, that's what that's about. Now you can see there. Okay, over 10, and we'll come all the way through here. Okay, escape once and escape twice. Come up to here, select that reference plane, drag it through, and we're going to call this one North LE reference plane. Okay. Now we'll just do the north and the south for the moment. If I go into the 3D section, now what I want to do is create a reference plane on top of. I need to create two, one for this slope and one for that slope there. All right. So let's get into maybe a section here. Go back into reference plane, and again offset of 12. Let's come over here. Okay, that's gone the wrong side, so let's get up to a little bit of hit and miss here in one sense. Okay, and we'll just bring it maybe to the end there. All right, let's select that one, and this is going to be the south roof. South roof reference plane. Oh. Control X, put that in the wrong spot. Control V. Okay. Apply. Right. Now let's come over and do this one here. Reference plane. Again, offset 12. And if we start from there, yeah, okay. Bring that right up to one there. Okay, and we will escape, select, and this will be north roof RP reference plane. Right, now we've got those done. Now what we need to do is to load into the project the rails that we're going to use. So we're into beams here, and we can just say okay to that, because all I want to do is beam systems Okay, so we'll go the south elevation here. Alright, we'll go into the south elevation, like so. Now load family, that's what I wanted to get to here. And if you come into the UK library, right, UK metric, down into structural framing, we have light gauge steel, and what we're looking for is the Kingspan multi-beam rails. So the rails are on the south elevation, and the purlins are on the roof. Just make sure you know that distinction here. So we're going to select the rails first, and we'll go for something like this, a 145 by 65. So you can select that one and go OK, and that should load that into the project. And what I'd like to do maybe is just to draw a rail to make sure that it's in the project, and I can delete it. Now we're going to escape out of that. You can see that my reference plane is here. And this is the show reference plane up the top right hand corner there, so you can see that. If I go into a 3D view here and say show the reference plane, and you notice that they're view specific. Okay, so we're going to set the reference plane. I'm going to go down to the south elevation, okay, and that'll go vertical there. And another little tip for the reference plane is that you can see the grid here, okay, and the default grid is around 2 meters. And if you were going to do your rails at say 900 or 1200 centers or something like that, I'm going to put mine at 900 centers, I think. Then I'm going to make my grid 900 centers as well, and sometimes that'll help too. Just another thing, we will require some horizontal bracing to go in across here. And how do we put that in? Well, same technique in one sense, is that we will use the reference plane, so that we're now drawing from a flat plane to a vertical. Okay, and that's where the reference planes come into their own in one sense. Right. Now, so I've got my rails in. So let's do this. Let's get the rails into position. So I'm going into the south elevation. You notice as well that I've introduced the elevation PDF in here, because what it's going to do is it's going to give us these kind of gaps, right? Because if we don't have those gaps in, and we run the rails all the way across here, then you're obviously going to see them. So that's why I've got the elevation PDF in there. Now let's just pick this, and you can see that it's 1200 there, and I'm going to now apply 900. So it's just giving me a rough guide. That's all it's doing, and I'll see that I'll have rails coming in through here if I follow kind of the grid pattern more than anything else. So the grid offset, grid dimension is not essential. What it's doing is just giving me a visual feedback on perhaps where the rails are going to come through the windows here. Right, so we're into our beam systems. We're into structure tab, we're into beam systems. And you can see here as well, the first thing we're going to do is come over to the pattern properties here, and we've options on fixed distance, fixed number, manual clearing. So we want a fixed distance of 900 here. I'll start off with the center. Okay, I'm happy enough to start there. We can always adjust these at a later stage, and this is the important thing here, the beam type. So if you hit the drop down box here, you'll see the various different, you'll see the Kingspan multi-beam rails. All right, so that's the one I'm going to be using, right? The rails, and the purlins are on the roof, the rails are on the vertical elevations. And depending on whether you want horizontal rails or vertical rails, you need to make that decision based on this here as well. So I've introduced the beam type, center, 900 spacing. Now I'm going to draw my beam system boundaries, if you like, right? So I'm going to go from that point there, all right, come all the way across here to this point here, no, sorry, that's not where I wanted it, but I'll move that line. I actually wanted it here, okay? So I'll straighten up that now when I get into it here. Over to the edge of the column and up to the very top here. Close. Now before I finish that, I need to go back over here, escape. Let's pick that boundary line and just move it so that it is on the column and it's vertical there. Right, now, so I've got that. The other thing now that is important, I spoke about vertical rails or horizontal rails. They are governed by this beam direction here, okay? And you can change that by selecting that tool, come over to a grid line. Now my rails will go vertical, okay? In my case, I want them to go horizontal, so I'm going to change that back to that point there. All right. Now, so we can finish that, and let's see what it gives us. Okay, continue. I think I have to do a trim over here. Now let's see if that'll finish. Yeah, okay. Now if I go into 3D, you can see I've got my rails are in there. Seems to have got an extra one in here. Now, there's a few things here. First of all, you can see that the rails are not rotated correctly, and also they're sitting in the space of the columns here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust. I've gone up too high, I think, with that with the box. But let's see what we can do here. Escape, and we're going to pick the beam system. Now, draw this distinction between the beam system, which is everything, right? It's like the curtain wall, all right? And then within the beam system, we have the actual rails themselves. So there, and we can choose those individually too. But what I want to do now is affect the whole of the beam system here. So I'm going to move from center maybe to end and apply. No, that's made it worse. So we'll go beginning and apply. Okay, that's not bad. All right, now I might be able to move those down as well a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. Now what I need to do is I need to fix what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to turn the reference plane off so you can see this a bit clearer. Right, so we are going to select our beam system, and the first thing we need to do is to rotate the rails here. So I'm going to pick a rail, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say select all instances visible in the view. All right, now I've got a set of parameters over here, and one of the parameters is a cross-section rotation, so 90, and apply. Now these have come up, maybe they should be the other way around, and if they are, then perhaps that should be a minus 90. Let's apply that. Okay, and you can see it's shifted them up here a little bit, and that's fine. Okay, just for the moment. Now what I want to do is obviously I need to get these so that they're sitting on the column, or sitting on the offset of the column here. So I'm going down here to the Y justification. All right, and I'm going to hit that. Sorry, the Y justification is here, and I'm going to, this would be on the right hand side, so that has pushed those rails out for me. Now let's just check those in a section and see how we're doing. Something like so. Okay, so you can see there's the 12 mil gap, and they are now in the Y justification, and they're correct. Now back to the 3D, and I'll escape. Now I can pick that rail, okay, and if I unpin it, I can delete it. All right. Now, did I want to do that, or would I move it down a little bit more? I probably should move it down. So let's bring that back again. Okay, and if I go into the south elevation, and I'll turn off the reference plane here, and it is that one. Interesting enough, the elevation view is telling me that perhaps my columns should be up higher, so I might just leave that rail as is and not do anything with it, and I might take my columns, right, and select all instances visible in the view, right, and let's see if I can. I've got a top offset here of, let's put 300 in here. Okay, now that's probably a better solution than messing around with the other. All right, now once you get that set, what we can do is we can mirror those across. But before I do that, I'm going to go back into my south elevation. Now you can see I've got a lot of hills coming through the windows here and the curtain walling and whatever else. Now, so it could be a bit of a manual exercise to split these and to move them back. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to do a little experiment here to see if this works. So I'm going to go back in, and when I'm creating the, I'm going to delete all of this. And I'm going to go back in, and when I'm creating the boundaries for the beam system, I'm going to create internal boundaries in around these windows and these areas here. And I want to see if my rails will go in the whole way across and then maintain the rule system. Okay, and the rule system is these parameters that I changed over here, because I know if I do that now, if I do this manually, if I select my beam system here and I edit the boundary, and what I'll do is I can go in something like so, right, and repeat that across, and I'll go OK. Now it has taken the rails out all right, but if I go into 3D, what it's done is you can see that these have gone back to the original. So they've come out of the rule system that I had, so I'd have to go back in and change those. So I'm going to try just a little experiment. That's might be what we'd have to do here, but I'm going to try a little experiment where I'm going to go in and as I'm building the boundaries for the rail system, rather than adding them in later when I've got the rails there, I'm going to build in those internal boundaries and see how that works. So I'm going to pause this, I'm going to do that, and I'll come back to you. Now, so you can see that I have drawn up the boundary lines for the beam system, and I've put in the internals around the windows here, and those areas of curtain walling, and this one here as well. So let's check. Light gauge Kingspan, perfect. 900 fixed distance, that's that. Now you can see that has worked. Okay, I'm not saying it's finished yet. Let's see if we can apply the rules here. All right, so let's pick this one, right click and go select all instances visible in the view. Let's change the orientation to -90, wasn't it? Apply. Okay, and let's change then the Y justification to right. Now that has worked beautifully. Okay, so that was well worth doing in terms of that, and you saw the reason why I've gone about and done it that way rather than go in and edit the boundaries after. All right, now I don't know if the pattern is repeated in the, no, it's different in the north elevation. So rather than mirror these ones over to here, which I can do because they're on the vertical, I'm just going to go through the same process again and create the rail system for in there. All right, so that was that's good exercise. Now I'll need to get some verticals in here that'll frame out the windows, and let me just go back into the south here again. So Now, perhaps what I could have done was change the spacing of the rails here to match the windows, but they might match the windows, but they mightn't match the panels that you're using, that you're proposing to use. So there will be a bit of a frame out going on here, and we'll take a look at that in a different video. All right, so that's the start of getting your horizontal subframe rails onto the elevations. So I'm gonna do the north side now, and then I'll come back to you and we'll take a look at the purlins on the other side.